My parents forced me to pay rent while my sister lived free, so I moved out and took every penny I'd ever given them. I've always been the responsible one. The kind of kid who did what he was told, kept his head down, and believed that loyalty and hard work could fix anything. Growing up, my parents drilled that lesson into me. Nothing in life is free, my dad used to say, while my mom added, we all have to pull our weight. And I believed them. For years I lived by that rule like it was gospel, but that rule never seemed to apply to my sister. Megan, she was 2 years older than me, charming, effortlessly confident. The type of person who could make our parents laugh even when she messed up. If she broke curfew, Dad called it youthful fun. If I came home 5 minutes late from work, it was disrespect. Megan could do no wrong. I could barely breathe wrong. When I landed my first real job at 21, I thought maybe things would finally even out. I was earning my own money, paying my own way. My parents were proud, at least at first. I remember the night I told them about my first paycheck. Mom smiled and said, "You're such a good boy. Maybe now you can help a little around here." That help quickly turned into me covering the electric bill, then groceries, then the internet. Megan, on the other hand, stayed between jobs for years, finding herself, as Mom liked to say. She had her own car, bought by my dad, and a fully furnished room that I wasn't even allowed to sit in because she likes her privacy. Still, I didn't complain. I thought that's what good sons do, they give without keeping score. I told myself it was temporary, that one day they'd see how much I did for them. But somewhere deep down, a quiet voice whispered something I wasn't ready to hear in this house. Love was conditional, and I was the one paying for it, and soon I'd find out just how high that cost really was. It started on an ordinary Sunday morning. I was halfway through fixing a leaky kitchen faucet when Dad called me into the living room. His tone was serious, the kind he usually reserved for family meetings or lectures. Mom sat beside him, hands clasped in her lap like she was rehearsing for a sad performance. Dad cleared his throat. "Son," he began, "you've been living here rent-free for too long. You're 28 now. It's time you learned what real responsibility looks like." I froze, wrench still in my hand. "Rent-free?" I echoed. "I've been paying for the groceries, the internet, the gas." Mom interrupted softly. "That's not the same, honey. Those are just small contributions. It's time to start paying your fair share. My fair share." Those words hit me harder than I expected. Megan was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, pretending not to listen. I looked at her and said, "So I'm paying rent now. What about Megan?" She smirked, without looking up. "I'm still figuring things out, remember?" Dad cut in sharply. "Your sister is going through a rough time. Don't compare yourself to her." It was like the air got heavier. My chest felt tight. "So let me get this straight," I said slowly. "I work full-time, pay half the bills, and now I'm supposed to pay rent too, while she does nothing." Dad's eyes hardened. "If you don't like it, you can find your own place." The room went dead silent. Even Megan looked up then, her lips twitching in what looked like satisfaction. Mom reached out and touched my arm. "Sweetheart, don't make this about her. We're just trying to teach you independence." I wanted to scream, but instead I nodded, swallowing every word that tried to escape. Independence. That's what they called it. What I didn't realize then was that this wasn't about independence at all. It was about control. And I had just agreed to their terms without even realizing it. At first, I tried to reason with them. I thought maybe this was just a misunderstanding, a bad moment taken too far. A few days after the rent talk, I sat with my parents in the kitchen, hoping for a real conversation. "I don't mind helping out," I said carefully, "but it feels unfair when I'm already paying most of the expenses. Megan isn't contributing at all." Dad slammed his coffee mug down so hard it cracked the handle. "There it is again, you and your comparisons. Why do you always make everything a competition?" "I'm not," Mom cut me off, her voice trembling. "You think we don't notice how distant you've become? You never smile anymore. We're just trying to prepare you for the real world, but you twist everything into an attack." The words hit like darts. Suddenly, I was the problem. The ungrateful son who couldn't appreciate his parents' lessons. Megan wandered in halfway through the conversation, yawning. "What's all the drama this time?" she asked, her tone dripping with mock concern. When I explained, she laughed. She laughed a soft, cruel laugh that still echoes in my head. Maybe they just want to see if you can finally handle being an adult. I wanted to throw something. You're 29, Megan. You live here too. Why don't you pay rent? She shrugged. Because I'm family. That one sentence broke something inside me. I looked at my parents, waiting for them to correct her, but they didn't. They just sat there, staring at me like I was the intruder. For the next few weeks, every time I brought up money or fairness, the same pattern repeated: anger, guilt, silence. If I questioned their logic, Dad said I was disrespectful. If I got quiet, Mom said I was cold. They twisted every word until I didn't trust my own memory. Every argument ended the same way, with me apologizing just to make the shouting stop. And in the middle of it all, Megan smiled. Because she knew I was drowning, and she was the one holding my head under. After that, I stopped arguing. It wasn't worth it anymore. Every word I said was ammunition they twisted against me. So I did what I'd always done, kept my head down, and worked harder. Each morning, I woke up before sunrise, left for my job, and came home late enough that most nights I barely saw anyone. The house always smelled faintly of Megan's perfume and leftover takeout. The living room TV was constantly on, her laughter echoing through the walls while I counted coins for next month's rent. I started tracking every expense in a notebook, not because I planned to confront them, but because it was the only way I could prove to myself that I wasn't crazy. Internet bill, $90. Groceries, $160. Rent, $500. I was paying nearly everything. Yet they acted like I was freeloading. Sometimes, I'd pass Megan's open door and see her scrolling through her phone, watching shows, ordering food. She never looked up, never said thanks. Once, I overheard her talking to a friend on speakerphone. Yeah, my brother still lives here. My parents make him pay rent now, about time, right? Her laughter stung more than anything my parents ever said. I went back to my room, sat on my bed, and stared at the cracked ceiling. The quiet felt suffocating. I could feel years of resentment building under my skin like pressure behind glass. One wrong word, and it might all shatter. But instead of breaking, I endured. Because leaving wasn't an option yet? I told myself things would change once I proved my worth again, once they saw how responsible, how loyal I still was. I didn't realize it then, but I wasn't proving loyalty. I was teaching them how far they could go before I broke, and soon. They'd find out I had a breaking point after all. It happened completely by accident. One night, Dad asked me to help fix the family laptop, the same one everyone used for bills and emails. It was running slow, so I started clearing old files and organizing the desktop. That's when I noticed a folder buried deep in the documents. House Finances 2022? I wasn't snooping, not at first. But curiosity got the better of me when I saw my own name labeled beside multiple transactions. My heart started to race as I opened the spreadsheet. Line after line showed the rent I'd been paying every month, the same $500 I transferred to my parents' account, and next to each entry was a note, transfer to Megan's savings account. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe Megan had been managing the bills? But then I saw the total. $6,000. Every single dollar I had given them had been moved into her personal account. I sat there staring at the screen, my hands trembling. The house felt eerily quiet, except for the hum of the laptop. My stomach twisted as I whispered, "They've been giving my money to her." That night, I couldn't sleep. Every interaction suddenly replayed in my mind. The guilt trips, the lectures, the constant comparisons. It wasn't just favoritism anymore. It was betrayal. They'd turned me into their financial backup plan for their golden child. The next morning at breakfast, Megan was casually sipping her coffee, scrolling her phone like always. I wanted to confront her, but something in me held back. For once, I didn't speak. I just watched her laugh at something on her screen while my parents talked about saving for the future. That's when it hit me. They weren't saving for my future. They were saving mine for hers. I decided right then I wouldn't confront them immediately. Not yet. This time, I'd be careful. I'd stay quiet, play along, make them believe I was still their obedient son. because they'd taught me how to pay. But soon, they'd learn how it felt to lose everything they'd taken. From that night on, everything changed, but quietly. I didn't slam doors or start fights. I smiled at breakfast, made small talk, even handed Dad the rent envelope like clockwork. Inside, though, something in me had flipped. Every thank you from Mom, every smug glance from Megan, every casual command from Dad, I recorded it all in my mind, emotionless. I wasn't their son anymore. I was a witness building a case at work. Fate seemed to throw me a lifeline. My boss called me in one afternoon and said, "We're opening a new branch in another city. You've been reliable for years. How do you feel about a promotion and relocation package?" For a second, I just sat there in silence, trying to process it. The words promotion and relocation sounded like air after years of drowning. I said yes before he even finished his sentence. It was like the universe had cracked open a door I didn't even realize was locked. That night, as I walked into the house, I saw Megan sprawled across the couch watching TV while Mom folded her laundry. Dad was yelling at a customer on the phone. I looked at them, this loud, chaotic image of family, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for wanting to leave. I felt free. Still, guilt tried to creep in. Mom noticed my quiet mood and asked, "Rough day, sweetheart?" I smiled and said, "No, actually. Things are finally looking up." She caught the double meaning. She didn't show it. That night, I started preparing in secret, slowly moving my savings, canceling automatic payments, gathering receipts, making copies of everything. They'd taught me to be meticulous, and I was finally putting that lesson to use. The plan wasn't just to leave. It was to walk away clean, with every cent that was mine. And the best part? They'd never see it coming. It all came crashing down one Friday evening. I had just gotten home from work. Exhausted but secretly excited, I had finalized the relocation paperwork that morning. One more week, and I'd be gone. But when I opened the front door, I immediately knew something was off. The air felt charged, heavy. My dad was sitting at the dining table, arms crossed, a half-empty beer bottle beside him. Mom stood behind him, wringing her hands. Megan lounged nearby, smirking like she already knew how this was going to go. "Sit down," Dad said, his voice cold. I didn't. What's this about? He slammed a printed document on the table. My new lease agreement. My stomach dropped. I'd been careful, but apparently not careful enough. So, he sneered. "You were planning to run off and leave your responsibilities behind? After everything we've done for you?" I swallowed hard. Responsibilities? You mean paying your bills while Megan lives rent-free? Mom's eyes filled with tears. "Don't talk about your sister like that. She's trying. You're the one tearing this family apart." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was the only thing keeping me from exploding. "You're serious, aren't you? You really think I'm the problem here?" Dad shot up from his chair. "You ungrateful brat. You think you're better than us now? You think you can just walk away?" Megan chimed in, her tone dripping with mock concern. "Maybe he should. Clearly, he doesn't appreciate how much Mom and Dad do for him." That was it, the breaking point. Years of silence, guilt, and gaslighting collapsed in one moment. I stared at the three of them, my so-called family, and said quietly, "You're right. Maybe I should leave." Dad pointed toward the door. "Then go. Don't come crawling back when life hits you." I didn't say another word. I went to my room, packed what I could fit into my car, and left. That night, I slept in the driver's seat under the flickering glow of a gas station sign. My entire life packed into a few boxes, and for the first time in years, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt like freedom, but also like rock bottom. That night in my car, I made myself a promise. If they wanted to teach me a lesson about responsibility, I'd show them what that really meant. I wasn't going to beg or explain. I was going to disappear, quietly, methodically, and completely. The next morning, I called my bank. My name was still on a few shared account savings, utilities, even a maintenance fund I'd helped set up years ago for emergencies. I told the banker I needed to close my contributions immediately and transfer the remaining balance to my personal account. When she read the total aloud, I almost laughed. Thousands of dollars. Years of rent and help that had been siphoned away under the name of family. I moved every penny. Then I changed my direct deposit, canceled my automatic transfers, and locked every digital trace. By noon, my finances were clean. For the first time since I was old enough to earn money, I wasn't tied to them. The following days, I stayed with a friend while finalizing my relocation. My phone blew up missed calls, angry texts, guilt-ridden voicemails. You've made your mother cry. Your sister needs that money. How could you do this to her? You're destroying this family. Each message only hardened me further. They weren't worried about me. They were panicking about losing their supply. I didn't respond. Not once. Instead, I went to the house one last time under the pretense of grabbing documents. While they were out, I cleared my belongings, left my house keys on the counter, and wrote a short note. You taught me to pay for what I use. I've taken back what's mine. Consider us even. When I locked that door for the last time, there was no anger left, just silence. The kind of silence that feels like standing outside after a storm, realizing the wreckage is behind you. They thought they'd taught me independence. But what I learned instead was self-respect. I wasn't about to give that back. I left before dawn. The sky was still that deep blue before sunrise, the streets quiet except for the hum of my car engine. My entire life fit in the back seat, clothes, laptop, a few tools, and that old notebook filled with years of expenses. As I pulled out of the driveway for the last time, I looked at the house through the rearview mirror. For years, it had been my cage, a place where I tried to earn love like rent payments. Now it was just wood and walls. The drive to my new city was 6 hours long, but it felt like shedding layers with every passing mile. The guilt, the self-doubt, the constant need to please, they all started to peel away. I stopped once at a rest area and sat on the hood of my car, watching the sunrise. The light hit my face, warm and quiet, and for the first time in years. I realized I didn't owe anyone an explanation for wanting peace when I finally reached my new apartment. It was small, barely furnished, just a couch, a bed, and a view of the skyline. But the stillness felt sacred. No yelling, no manipulation, no walking on eggshells. That first night, I made instant noodles, opened my window, and listened to the city buzz below. Freedom didn't feel loud. It felt gentle. I thought that would be the end of it, that I could start fresh, erase the past, and move on. But people like my parents don't let go quietly. Within days, the calls started again, first from Mom, then Dad, then Megan. Missed calls turned to voicemails. Voicemails turned to messages from relatives. They're saying, you stole from them. Your parents are heartbroken. Why would you do something so cruel? I ignored every one of them. I didn't owe anyone my side of the story. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Because people who live off control don't stop when you walk away. They stop when you show them you'll never come back. The silence didn't last long. About 2 weeks after I settled in, I got an email from my mother with the subject line, "You've gone too far." The message was short, but every word dripped with manipulation. Your father is furious. Megan's account is empty. The mortgage payment is overdue because of you. I hope you're proud of what you've done. I stared at the screen, feeling that familiar pit in my stomach, but this time it didn't consume me. I closed the email, blocked her address, and went back to work. I had a promotion to focus on, a new life to build. Every time my phone buzzed after that, I let it ring. I was done being the family's emotional punching bag. Still, there were nights when the weight of it all hit me. The guilt, the memories, the echo of my dad's voice calling me ungrateful. It's strange how even when you escape toxicity, it lingers like smoke in your clothes. I'd lie awake, replaying every moment I'd ignored my own pain, just to keep the peace. But little by little, the noise started to fade. My new coworkers became friends. I joined a local gym, started cooking again, even took long walks at sunset, things I hadn't done in years. I began therapy too. My therapist said something that stuck with me. You didn't abandon your family. You stopped abandoning yourself. It took months, but I finally started believing that. Then one day I ran into an old neighbor from back home. She looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her purse before saying,
Ouch.
"I don't know if you've heard, but your parents have been struggling. The house might go up for sale soon." For a moment, I didn't know how to feel. Part of me wanted to rush in and fix everything like I used to. But another part of me, the stronger part, knew this was the consequence they'd earned. They taught me that love had a price. Now, they were finally paying theirs. It was months later when karma finally came knocking. I was sitting at my desk on a quiet Tuesday when I got a message on Facebook from someone. I didn't recognize Megan's ex-boyfriend. Kyle, his first line read, "You don't know me well, but you should see what your sister's been saying about you." Curiosity mixed with dread as I clicked the screenshots he attached. There it was, Megan in a group chat with her friends, bragging. "My parents always take care of me. They even made my brother pay rent just so they could build my savings." He was too dumb to notice. They laughed about it, every cruel, humiliating detail. She even admitted that mom and dad helped her hide the transfers because he'd freak out if he'd found out. My hands trembled as I scrolled. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was mockery. That night I didn't cry. I didn't even rage. I just gathered evidence. I had bank records, screenshots, text messages, years of proof showing exactly how they'd exploited me. And this time, I didn't hide it. I sent it all to my extended family, uncles, aunts, cousins, everyone who'd ever believed I was the ungrateful son. I wrote one line at the end of the email. "You can decide for yourselves who's really been taking advantage of who." It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. My cousin called first, her voice sharp with anger. "We had no idea, man. They've been lying for years." Then came more messages, family members shocked, disgusted, some cutting off contact with my parents completely. Within days, their perfect family image collapsed. Megan's social media accounts went private. My mother called me dozens of times, sobbing that I'd humiliated them. My father sent one text, "You've destroyed this family." But for once, I didn't feel guilty. They destroyed it the moment they turned love into a transaction, and for the first time. The truth wasn't just mine to carry, it was theirs to face. A few months later, I drove back to my hometown for the first time since everything exploded. I didn't go to see them, I just wanted closure. The streets looked smaller somehow, the houses older, the air heavy with the kind of nostalgia that doesn't comfort, only reminds you of what you survived. When I passed my parents' old house, I almost didn't recognize it. The for sale sign leaned crooked in the yard, paint peeling off the porch rails. The curtains were gone. So was the pride that used to hang in every window. I parked across the street for a while, just sitting there. I thought about all the nights I stayed awake in that house, convincing myself I was the problem, that if I worked harder, gave more, stayed quiet, they'd finally love me the same way they loved Megan. And now, here it was, the aftermath of their own lessons. A neighbor noticed me and walked over. "You here to see them?" she asked gently. I shook my head. "No," I said. "Just passing by." She smiled sadly. "They moved out last week. Couldn't keep up with the payments. I guess it all caught up to them." I nodded, watching the sunlight hit the empty windows. "Yeah," I said quietly. "It always does." Driving away, I didn't feel anger or satisfaction, just peace. Cold, quiet peace. Like the moment after a storm when you finally realize the thunder isn't coming back. I wasn't that dutiful son anymore, desperate for approval. I was someone new, someone who learned that family doesn't give you worth. You have to claim it yourself, as the road stretched out ahead of me. I whispered to myself, sometimes walking away isn't revenge. It's survival. For the first time in my life, I didn't look back.